Hi, I'm Dr. Nicole.
And this is Coach Cofia.
And Dion, welcome to Opportunities Over Obstacles.
The podcast where we discuss lessons in motherhood,
Life and business.
Hey.
What's up, y'all?
I just want to vibe off the music.
I know, it's so smooth. It's like
It's very
smooth vibe.
What's up?
What's going on? Back again.
Season 2 in effect. How are you guys?
Good.
Doing really well.
How was your summer?
Whew, awesome. Just resting, relaxing, taking in everything.
Summer has been busy for me, but good. A busy, good, productive summer.
Yes, Nicole's looking all sun-kissed and she's giving Angela Bassett.
Okay, with the arms. Let's go. Let's go. Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. So the topic today, we actually started talking about it before we hit record. So I was like, wait. This is good. So
yes,
we were talking about just different experiences we're having or have had with medications, whether it's for physical, health journeys or mental health. How do you want to kick this off?
Yeah. I was just sharing with everybody about just the medications that I am now on and how it was just beneficial. And I'm like, dang, overnight, literally, things are changing. And it makes me think like the whole idea, because I think this is kind of what sparked it, is like there was like this underlying belief that I wanted to do the things that I wanted to do without help from medication. And, so it's just like, man, well, maybe sometimes the things that you're trying to do, you're not going to be able to do without medication. And are you going to suffer because you want to be, quote unquote, in the naturally do it? And I'm like, shoot, I wish I would have known this 10 years ago. We could have been doing something different.
We're living our best life.
Right. So, yeah. So it's just like, just so many benefits from it, just being able to like see it so suddenly and the effects that it's having on just different parts of my life is just really cool. So it's like, what about, why is it like this? Why do we have this stigma around medication? Like, where did it come from? And why does it, like, how can we tear it down?
I feel like there's such a mistrust in general of the medical establishment. Like, if you hear what people say, oh, they just want to give you pills, big pharma, these doctors, like, and not to say there's not a side of that. Yeah. But I noticed whether it's vaccines, and one time I was talking to this doctor, just not even my doctor, we were just talking, and he was like, modern medicine has made so many advances to where we can now reject it. And he's like, because there was a time where you would die from all kinds of simple illnesses like tetanus. Now we get tetanus shots, but you could die from you getting cut by a piece of metal and getting infected. But now we don't know about that. So everyone's like, oh, this medication. So it just shows how things have advanced. But we got to watch out, because now it's like everyone's rejecting things where, yeah, it needs to be in balance. But look, give me smallpox vaccine,
polio, COVID.
Yes. I met somebody with polio walking around and they're paralyzed. Like, yeah. So I think sometimes the way we talk about it, like, oh, these doctors, this medication, these people, we act like there's somebody out there that wants to just get us with medication, which there is a business side to pharmaceuticals. But it's like ingrained in us, right? To be like, oh, these people are just trying to get us.
Right. I definitely know people. I actually have a cousin with polio. But I definitely know
Wow.
people
Yes.
who, one person in particular who I'm really close with, her daughter, her and her daughter, they do not do any type of vaccines. She was struggling for a really long time to find like a holistic health, physician. I mean,
Mhm.
I get it because I feel like, yes, medicine will help extend our lives, give us a better quality of life. But I think for me, it's about how dependent do I want to be on the thing?
Mhm.
So I don't want to be on blood pressure medicine for the rest of my life. I just had a friend pass away last week, or yeah, last week, who didn't die from the condition that she had. It was the medication that she was
Mhm.
taking for the
Mhm.
condition. I mean, that's an extreme case
Like
because,
chemo, like, I know what you mean though, like,
right,
but
right.
it's toxic in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like, even when I think about like my journey of getting weight loss surgery 6 years ago, I was like, that's going to catapult me. Like, I was already doing the work, but I felt
Mhm.
like this would give me a boost. But
Yeah.
now here I am 6 years later about to get revision to this,
But
for
it
the
did
surgery.
work for the time it worked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
You
did.
yes, I've seen your
It did.
pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
like
the,
I always struggle with that. Like how much is it's a balance, right? Like I don't want to lean or rely so heavily on medications, especially now that I'm understanding like metabolically, in terms of my hormones and genetics, weight loss surgery, medications. If I'm not getting to the root issue, then all of that's is just going to be a short-term fix. I mean, it was great. I
yeah.
kept the weight off. It's been 6 years. I've kept the weight off 5 of the 6.
Yeah.
And then
you
keep
know,
it here,
and
yeah.
So
still actually not as at the size and health level that I was, but yeah, it's
so
some of
you've
the
bought some
something that.
life.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and so you've bought some life. Like it worked and it allowed you to buy some time that you wouldn't necessarily have had because you probably would have been going in the opposite direction.
Oh
So
yeah.
even if you didn't stay completely as far away as you wanted to, the fact that you got further away and you
hmm
didn't get worse, like it's helped in that sense.
No,
Like
it's totally helped. Like I don't have any
yeah.
regrets about it, except for like maybe the type of surgery I should have. Like the surgery I'm getting this year is probably what I should have
Mm,
had the first time.
okay.
But
Mm,
that's the
okay.
thing with the medical industry is what they're finding is statistically people who've had I had the vertical sleeve, so people who've had the sleeve are dealing with not just the weight gain, but all of the side effects of like really extreme GERD and hernias. So now more people are getting
Mm.
a full
The
bypass. But that's just
okay.
medicine, right? Like we
Yeah.
didn't know what we didn't know. So
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Which makes and it makes sense. I mean, with the medication that I am on is for the weight loss, and it's like just talking to like I've struggled with my weight my entire life.
hmm
My mom has struggled with her weight. My grandma has struggled with her weight. Like, and just now getting like talking to this specific doctor and getting the information that it's something that I cannot literally like I'm fighting my genetics and to try to do that
hmm
one without the skill to change my environment, to change my lifestyle, like not knowing exactly how to do that, but then the genetics fighting my attempts to change. And
hmm
it's like, you know, the medicine, like you said, I think it's just more so like as a tool, right?
It's a
Just
tool.
like money is a tool, these resources that we have, these things are tools. And so I'm looking at it like, okay, this is a tool to help me change my lifestyle so that at some point I can get off of the medication, but learn enough, embed enough, not just for me, but for my daughters that we can, that they have, like it literally breaks the pattern.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
In the modern lifestyle, we don't live a lifestyle that our forefathers like thousands
yeah.
of years ago did. So,
oh yeah,
like we're fighting against sugar, fat, salt. It's things that are thrown at us from modern life that it's almost like we need something else
Yeah.
because they didn't have drive-throughs. They didn't have you could buy for 99 cents a potent
Okay.
right.
mix of something that is so addictive. Because my
hmm
kids wanted a Cinnabon last night. I had to literally stop eating all that because once you eat one,
It's
and
like,
It's yep.
yeah, And I told them, you guys can only get it once in a while, but you could buy that's poison for 99 cents or $2. And they're throwing that at us. So I feel like
Yeah.
then we have to try to do it all on our own. And it's like you're going against the ocean of
Yeah.
like sitting down all the time, driving everywhere, fat, sugar, salt,
Right.
all this stuff. And then we get made to feel bad for needing help with it. Like, oh,
Right.
you're
And
supposed
then
to
you
be with
spend the
that
money on the medication to get help from the thing that they've kind of put in our
thrown at
face.
us.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And then you don't have the right mindset to go into it knowing that you want to get off of it. So not really making, like, some of the people that I've seen, like, I've done a bunch of YouTube university research around people and they didn't make the changes, for their lifestyle, and then they gain the weight back, and it's like, okay, well, you got to learn to really change the way that you
Oh
live.
yeah. Yeah.
Like,
So
it's
once they got
literally,
off,
yeah, some of them, when they got off, they gained weight back, so then they had to get back on,
Hmm.
or do like a more of a maintenance dose.
And that's a big reason why I gained that weight back. For a good portion of the pandemic, I was like still going outside. I was like, oh no, I'm not going, I'm not using this. This is not my backsliding season. So, once my mom passed, the stress and
yeah.
then the bad habits. And a part of that is like, I understand. And my GYN told me this, and she specializes in like PCOS, but she's like, if I had gotten a hold of you earlier, you wouldn't have needed
The
weight loss
surgery. Mm.
surgery, medicate, like metformin, like all the things. So I think for me, it's understanding like I need to tackle that underlying issue because none of this other stuff matters. Like I work out 4 or 5 days a week, and to look at me, right? Somebody would be like, "Well, you run?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do all the things," but we don't understand genetically like what we're up against when we go take the medication. Even the medication I'm on for my hormones, I'm like, all right, doc, at what point do we scale that back? So
Mhm.
it's a journey. It's a journey.
It's hard. It's so much. Like I always look at the thing and then the thing we put on top of it. So like I
Mhm.
have clients, for example, who are anxious, but then they beat themselves up for being anxious. So not only are we dealing with the anxiety, but we're
Mhm.
dealing with beating ourselves up. And I
Guilt,
feel like
yeah.
that's how it is with all of these things we're trying to tackle, whether it's weight, health. We have the thing, but then it's like we all have all this self stigma or just why we beat ourselves up. And then that's another thing we have to tackle versus just the original thing, which is
There's still.
either genetics, life, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But we have so much like, well, why do I have to take medication? Like it's a personal failing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I feel like, look, if you need it, you need it. Like
Right.
Right.
whether it's mental health, physical health, my
Yeah.
mom has diabetes and she just was reading up on it. Her numbers are great, but she understands it's a progressive disease. So she does take metformin, but she can't just be like, well, I'm eating right and I'm off. She has to like really understand it's not just about her willpower.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like something much bigger than her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So do you ladies think people like modern medicine has made people so dependent or given people an out? Because I see people take metformin and drinking Pepsis, and I'm like eating Sundays. I'm like,
Wait,
it's it's not a pass to just buck. This is like wild out. That's not.
but is that their one? You know how like you could say 80-20, like 80% of the time you should be,
Hmm.
eating all, but then we're not monks, right? So
Oh
20%
yeah.
or whatever. But it's so when you see them, is that their regular or is that their treat, their one-time treat?
So I mean, the few family
Look.
members I know of, or even thinking about my dad, and I get this attitude from him. I'm going to get what I want to get when I, not when I feel like it, but like if I know I've been sticking to the, running the play, and then it's like a weekend. Like yesterday, I had a strawberry shortcake. It was so good. Oh my gosh, from my favorite bakery. But that's like the only sweet that I had all week. I really didn't like eat fast food or anything. So that was my one thing. But it's that
Mhm.
balance. I think sometimes people get too comfortable because medication is easy to get. it's convenient, and then they kind of lose sight of like, well, my sugar's good. I'm like, well, your sugar's supposed to be good, but without the
Yeah.
medication, are you able to, like you said, maintain that, have good numbers and all that? So keeping focus on like the health aspect and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's similar to how we look at like people in business or people wanting to make change. Like the masses, the majority of people are going to stay stuck. They're going to stay the same. And then there's going to be a percentage of people who use the medication or who grow their businesses or stay consistent and don't give up. They're going to succeed. And so I think it's the same with the medication, having the
Mhm.
right mindset around like not being on it forever, using it as a tool and not looking back. But
Yeah,
it's a percentage. Like it's not the majority. I can tell you that
Yeah.
because
yeah,
the
Yeah.
majority of people don't have the awareness to know all the things that they're fighting up against. They don't have the whatever it takes to even look outside of themselves to reflect in other areas of their life. So it's very unlikely that they would do it in this part of their life, but we can
yeah,
still encourage and be there and all that, but like to expect it to be the majority, I don't think it's reason. Like I don't think that.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
So that means I'm listening. It's like, okay, so there's a group of people that are like the sheep. My doctor said they're just going to do whatever. They don't question.
Say
They
it
don't,
again, Nicole.
you know, like, well,
My
the
doc.
doctor said. And I remember that too, because when I was pregnant with my first daughter and I was living in the Middle East, I went to the doctor and I didn't know I was pregnant. And so I was like, I'm feeling nauseous. Like I wasn't feeling good.
Yeah.
He gave me medicine and I didn't take it. I know what you guys are saying, right? I hear it because, like, yeah, they will throw medicine at you, but I didn't take it because I was like, well, what is this for exactly? Like it was
Mhm.
just throwing it at a symptom.
Right.
But
Yeah,
there's people that,
yeah.
yeah, right? But
That's
if that's right, he didn't even, it's like, oh, you're nauseous? Okay. Boom, boom, boom.
Let me
Even my
treat that.
husband, when he had vertigo, they gave him, what is it? It's some kind of thing that when you look at it, it's not good for you. You need to figure out why you have vertigo
why.
and
Yeah.
fix it and do the physical therapy versus taking this pill.
Mhm.
And he never took it. He said he's one of those with medication. He said American doctors, they'll be giving you a pill 1 minute, next minute you're in Kensington bending over. And you know what that means, Dion. Kensington is the
Not
place,
bending over in
like,
Kensington.
from
So
heroin, you
that's
know
the
how they're
zombie
like,
area. I don't know if you
yeah,
saw
Oh,
that those videos, Kofia.
I don't think so, but it's
It's the
okay.
area of the city where it's like drug addicts just in the street, and they're
Oh,
on.
oh,
What are
gee.
they on, Nicole?
they're
It's
fentanyl, hair, like
fentanyl and yeah,
Oh,
heroin.
opioids,
oh
the
And they're
God.
just
opioid
like
crisis.
they're
Oh,
barely they're barely standing up straight. So they
They're
literally
like,
look like zombies. Like if you go on TikTok and you put in
that's
Kensington
the thing.
zombies, like you'll see it.
Oh my
It's
God.
scary driving through there. It is scary.
and he said a lot of the people, like, well, not he said, but like some people transfer from being addicted to like Oxycontin, all of these drug medic. You know what, guys? So now I changed my position a little bit because no, because the way they push these pain medications, see,
Mm,
I'm okay if you're treating an underlying condition, but
Right.
sometimes they want to treat a symptom like pain, or
Right.
you go to the dentist, they give you 10,000
mhm.
narcotics, and then you have these pills and you're stuck on them. And even when I was giving birth to my first child, they wanted to give me morphine. And I'm like, childbirth is something we've been doing for tens and thousands of years. Why would you want to give me morphine?
I'm not
Look
saying
at
I
the
would.
idea. It's like, sign me up.
That's
I'm
different
not
than an
taking.
epidural.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying I would
Morphine.
take morphine, but I understand.
But
Woo,
they took it up a level. There's an
yeah.
epidural. They're talking about morphine where you're knocked out. Like
Yeah.
Mm,
morphine is I think because I study these like medications,
Hmm.
that's a certain class of medication.
Yeah.
That's not localized. That's like in the
yeah.
class of heroin and stuff. So I'm just like,
And it make you
Morphine?
feel like you
Yes.
high and you just
Mhm.
So
love
I could
being on
see where they push things where it's to take away your discomfort.
Yeah, I think you hit the
That's
nail
what
on
I
the
don't
head.
like. Yeah.
Yeah, when you talk about the underlying issue. So for me, and I used to get so frustrated with not my bariatric surgeon, it was like the nurse practitioner. I was like, listen, because I was reading up on like omeprazole, which is used for GERD and reflux. And
Mhm.
Mhm.
if you're on that for a long time, you can get like stomach cancer, is it stomach or pancreatic? I was like, ma'am, I did not get weight loss surgery to stay on omeprazole. And like, I can take it for 30 days. And if I skip one dose, like my entire body's on fire.
Wow.
And so she's like, and she was very like nonchalant. She's like, well, a lot of people on omeprazole for the rest of their life. And I was like,
Because yeah.
so instead of figuring out why this is happening, you're just okay with patching this up,
Yeah.
right? Or, when I finally realized what's going on with my hormones, my doctor's like, your anxiety and depression, like your moodiness, your belly fat, your reflux is because of hormones. Like we tend to treat all these
Mhm.
things
Individually.
separately. And then I think before we recorded, we were talking about like Zoloft.
Mhm.
Um, my doctor prescribed it to me. It sat on my nightstand. I might have taken like two of them, not enough for it to really take
Mhm.
hold. But my therapist was like, "Listen, you can. This is your choice, but you have to also have the tools to be able to manage your anxiety and your
Right.
depression." And
Right.
so in that moment, I was like, "I don't want to do this with Zoloft." Like to me, that wasn't
Mhm. The tool
the
you
the
wanted
That's
to
a
symptoms,
use.
right, the
yes.
symptoms weren't that severe to me where I was like, I need to take that. Now, if I was, God forbid, suicidal or something, like, okay, I could see. But you definitely have to, I think that's for me, that was like the perfect articulation. It's like, what is the underlying issue and how
Mhm.
severe are the symptoms? And like, also,
Mhm.
like, what's the plan to not be on this thing,
Yeah.
forever? Because all of it everything has side
Side
effects.
effects.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It makes me think of you have to, I think it's more so like the lesson we got to learn is that we need to be advocates for our health.
Hmm.
And we have to learn ourselves, know ourselves well enough so that the doctor is just confirming. The doctor is not like, the doctor can do tests and help us, but ultimately we are more in charge of, accountable for, responsible for our health.
Hmm.
And they just assist us with that versus
Mhm.
going to them and thinking that they are the God and that they need to answer, like they got the answer.
And then
Yeah.
get mad when,
It don't work, or
yeah, exactly. But
yes.
Dion, when you said that about the Zoloft, so I have I'm very sensitive to people suffering when unnecessarily. And
Hmm.
I've like there's people that I've worked with in therapy or just that I've known, and like they will have had the same anxiety symptoms that are like very physical a lot of times for a long time. And they've been trying to be in therapy, they've been trying to do the work, and then they'll get Zoloft or something just a little bit, not like, they work with the
Hmm.
psychiatrist, and it helps to relieve some of those things that we've been talking about for years. Like we've talked about the mindset and the irrational thoughts and catastrophizing and what's the source and what are you afraid of, all of that stuff.
Hmm.
But they're still waking up in the middle of the night with worrisome thoughts. And
Yeah.
like once they would get on the medication, and it's like, they're like, wow, why I could have
I could have did
taken down
I
some of
could have
this
been sleeping
suffering.
good.
that part,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
we gotta just be, we can be open, right?
Hmm. Yeah. No, I struggled. Listen, I did so much pre-screening before I had my weight loss surgery, and I prayed about it, and I would get really close to a date, and I would back out of it, and finally, it was,
Oh,
yeah,
Did it
it's
feel like a
real.
failure, or what was the
Um,
underlying feeling like?
I felt not a failure, but I had to know that Dion, you did everything you could. Like that was it for me. It's not necessarily about failure, but even the type of surgery I chose, I was the one I'm supposed to The one I'm getting this year is what I was initially going to
You
get
got the conservative, the more
because
like
I wanted to rely, like, it was going to really hold me accountable. But again,
Yeah.
I was up against all these underlying conditions
That you didn't know.
that I wasn't aware of. So that kind of changed, and it just made sense. I was like, oh my gosh, for like 40 years, I've been struggling with all these different things. And it's because of what was it? What is it called, Nicole?
Epigenetics.
Epigenetics. Whoo, thank
oh,
you. Thank you,
epigenetics.
Cofia.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Epigenetics, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I was like, oh, so like understanding like the trauma and how it manifests physically. And then now we just come into this world with all this mess, that we're up against. And also like
Things
that.
that we inherited. Mm-hmm.
Right, right. And going back to like the distrust, I was thinking about the Tuskegee
Airmen.
Mm-hmm.
route. Right.
Syphilis
So,
experiment.
in this country, I
And
understand,
that's true. Yes, that
you
is
know.
true because they sat there and told those black men that we
Mhm.
are treating you for syphilis, but they really weren't. And they wanted to see how the disease progressed. So we were
Horrible.
literally used as test subjects.
Guinea pigs. Yep.
But the
Yeah.
thing is, like, yeah, it's the balance because my dad had a friend, a guy that wasn't as educated. This man was diagnosed with prostate cancer and
Hmm.
he trusted my dad. My dad went with him to the doctors because this
Mhm.
man was like very paranoid. He didn't trust. He was about to not get treatment and it was the lowest level of prostate cancer. But had he not gotten treatment, those things can progress. It would
Hmm.
have been something. So it was at the stage where it was very treatable with, I think, radiation. So luckily, my dad went with him to just try to explain to him because this man did not trust the doctors. He was bringing up the Tuskegee experiments, all this stuff. But
Mhm.
then it's like, I totally understand our mistrust, but you literally could be putting your life down the drain because you're sitting, he's like, I'm just going to juice. Sir, juicing is not, once you have that cancerous tumor, I'm not saying juicing can't be part of the regimen,
I
but
was going to
like,
say, why can't you do both? Like how we
Right.
yes.
always say, we don't have to
Right.
choose one thing. Listen,
Right.
like my dad used to say, when he would go in for surgeries and stuff, doctor would ask him like, do
Mhm.
you want to be resuscitated? Do you want a blood transfusion? He was like, give me all the blood that you got. He was like, I want all the
Give it all to me.
so that's
Yes.
so it's that combination of we need to be aware of our environment and what we're putting into our bodies.
Hmm.
And the medication is supposed to help us along the way. Like
Yeah.
that's but we kind of I don't
Yeah.
know, especially in America, we just
Lost sight
It's
of it.
so hard.
listen.
I
It
know
is
because
very hard. Yeah.
for every sensible person that's balanced that I think medication or treatments are good for, I do see where masses of unaware people could be herded into things, like
Mhm.
even ADHD. A lot of these kids in the inner city, quote unquote, or whatever you want to say, that they're just saying have ADHD. This is actually trauma that's never been treated. They're living in unstable environments, and their behavior looks like they're hyperactive, they can't focus, but no one's investigating, and they're just saying,
Mhm.
oh, he has ADHD or ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder, put him
Oh
on
yeah.
this med. They're
Hmm.
You
not
sound like
really
Dr. Umar.
looking. Yes, and
You sound like Dr. Umar.
he's right though.
Some of
And
his
I've been
stuff,
saying it before him.
some
Yes.
of his stuff, I was like, you got a point. I'm like, I would never say that. Oh, I guess I just did.
You did.
But that's his
But
lane.
he
He
said
needs
the
to
same
stop
thing.
talking about all this. He knows he's a school
Yeah.
psychologist. That's
He says,
his
stop
lane.
diagnosing these black and brown kids so early.
Yeah.
And then they're put in special education and they're put
Yeah.
on medication and you've kind of not
And they're
stunted their
not
growth,
fully
but
diagnosed. Like a real
mhm,
diagnosis, you go, for example, like you said, the Center for Autism or different places. These
mhm,
kids, they just give them a 2-minute checklist
yep,
and base it on their acting up. It's not like they don't even get the
mhm,
benefit
yeah,
of the full medical treatment that
Like the
somebody
workup.
with, yes, exactly.
mm,
And so I get it why people are skeptical, but I'm like, when I see a person with cancer or with something and they're just saying they're rejecting all treatment, I'm like, oh my God, no, I don't
I
want
know,
you.
I
That's
know.
like,
Yeah, and then, I mean, with cancer, I mean, my dad had it, my aunt had it. It's especially if it's like my mom had, not my mom, was it my aunt? She had pancreatic, like it was a more aggressive form. And
Yeah.
she was just like, I don't want to go through that treatment. Like she was like, the time I got left, like,
Yeah.
so it's
Wow.
also like the quality of life, right?
Yeah.
So my friend who passed away, she was on the medication for the muscular disease. Like, yes, it extended her life, but she was freaking 47 and spent a lot of her life in pain. And at the end of the day, it was the medication that weakened her heart.
That
And
made
then
her
that made
succumb.
her, yeah. So it's, you just have
That's
to, yeah, be an advocate for yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Be a good steward also over our bodies and our mental
Yeah.
well-being. That's also really important.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how I frame everything I'm doing right now. I'm just like, I'm making deposits. So when I'm 90 years old, Lord
yes.
willing, that I'm not, walking around I'm not in a wheelchair or a walker. I want to be, my
Right.
mother-in-law is 88 and she,
She,
Look, hell
listen,
on wheels, huh? She's giving it to them.
she said, listen.
listen, strong like bull. Okay. Does not look her age. She lives alone. She drives, like cooks for herself, everything,
That's so good.
she's out
That's
in
so
the yard. My husband had to go over and stop her from like shoveling
Mowing the lawn.
snow. Listen, I'm like, but that's what keeps her. And then the good old, was that
yeah.
codfish oil? Is that what it is?
Yes.
She
She
drinks it?
takes, she takes
Capsules?
capsules,
Capsules.
the capsules.
Okay.
She's been taking that most of her life. She takes her vitamins all the time. And of course, she cooks her own food, like all the things that we should be doing.
Right.
Right.
She
So
actually does and it works. Who
yeah.
would have thought?
So when I think about my later years, I'm like, yeah, I want to be snatched now, but it's also like I want to be around from like my great
Life,
grandkids.
yes.
Yeah.
Your
That's it.
well-being.
Hmm.
So we probably didn't, it goes back to the point. It's not just medication because Cofia, you said these people on YouTube are doing the medication, but they're not changing their lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I notice like when we go to Senegal, like just what we eat, um, literally every meal has a medicinal, like it'll have a herb that's very has a lot of nutrients.
Mm.
So it's like it's not just a one and done. Like, yeah, you can still, we're eating French bread and drinking Cokes, but like there's so many minerals in the food,
And
or
it's
we're
so
walking.
natural, or it's organic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because I can go abroad and eat. One time when I was in France years ago. When I tell you I ate all day, every day, and came back like 10 pounds lighter, I was like,
Like
how?
how that work?
Because the
Even the
quality of
flour,
the
yes,
food,
is
right?
organic
Yeah.
Everything's
and
cooked fresh every day. There's no preservatives and high sodium and
Yeah.
dyes and,
damn, look
all
what
that
they
stuff.
have done to us.
I said, oh,
It's
and those kind of experiences, like I understand why people here are distrustful of the
big,
FDA
yes,
and big
exactly.
pharma. Yeah. Because you're like,
That
wait,
is
you're
true.
giving us like garbage that's making us addicted and sick, and then you want to
Then
get
you
this
provide the
medication,
solution, right, as the
right?
medication.
Which gives a temporary solution, but then it'll still mess us up. I'm just like, oh, this is deep. Is deep.
Damn.
Yes.
So we
Yeah.
still don't have an answer. Look, we coming back.
Grow your own stuff.
Listen, I keep
Listen,
hearing and seeing more of that, like farming and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah. One of my coworkers, he's out in Lancaster, Nicole. He
Mm-hmm.
he's like an agricultural something. He teaches people how he fights against like food insecurity and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, that is
And he
awesome.
said
Mhm.
he said, yes, during COVID, because I know that was us. We were growing lettuce and strawberries and squash. And most people during COVID resorted to just growing
Their own.
their own food. But he was
Mhm.
like, most people don't know how to grow enough food that will sustain their own household in the
Mm,
event of,
something.
something.
Apocalypse. Yeah.
And it was a number he threw out. I want to say the way he said something about the soil, like the quality of the soil. There's only, he said, 60 harvests left. And I was
In the
like,
soil that we have over here on the East Coast.
right. So he's into like making sure the earth is cultivated. Like it's just so deep. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm doing the math. I'm like, 60, how many harvests in a year? Right.
Yes. Look,
But
we
that's
got about
crazy. Right. So he's teaching people how to, take care of the earth and, farm and oh my gosh, it's so deep. because he's like, honestly, we depend on our wallets and the grocery store, and God knows what, where that's coming from.
Yes.
Yeah, he was schooling us, and now I'm sitting there like, I might have to take some classes because I want to start growing stuff,
And that was how my grandmom had a
Wow.
community garden. I think that's why I'm into both. Like she was so naturopathic. She had a community garden, and then she still got diagnosed with breast cancer. And
Mm,
so we had to do the combination, like drastic, even more drastic change of her diet.
Mm,
But she had to get the treatment. But when it came back, when it came out of remission, it was kind of like you said with your aunt Dion, she didn't want any more treatment. Like at
mm,
that time, the chemo was very harsh and it was
mhm.
just like very not as advanced. And she
Yeah.
was like, I don't want it. And I was like, I could totally respect that.
Mhm.
But she, in the beginning, it was both. It was like, yes, we're doing our own natural thing, but this cancer is aggressive. So, and she had a good like 12 years in remission.
Mhm.
that's,
So, right? Like, and
And
then
that
by
was
the
probably
second
due to
thing,
that treatment that helped extend her
hmm
life. So yeah, I might give me all the things. I want the herbs. If you need to do surgery, go and get that out. If you need to do treatment, like give me all of it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Wow.
so what you just got to take, everyone has to, like you said, take our health into,
All hands.
hmm
Yeah.
And be an advocate for ourselves and
Yeah.
use it as a resource, as a tool.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
and don't be afraid of medication. If you look, I always
If
tell
you
this
know you
story.
need it.
Yes, with
Yeah, you
my
know you need it.
acne, I don't know, have you guys ever heard of Accutane?
I think
Uh,
It's
so.
the pill. So there's all kind of like you could do the topicals and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
there's a pill that will clear your acne up. It has very harsh side effects for like 3 months. You can't get pregnant. Your child will have birth defects. But
okay.
once
Wow.
you finish your treatment, you will be at least 5 to 10 years without acne. When
Wow.
I tell
Wow.
you, yes, and it wasn't till again living overseas that the dermatologist offered it to me. My acne is going like this. I'm not gonna
Wow.
Wow.
say I never get a pimple, but as
But it's
someone
not.
who through the 20s,
Mhm.
like it just, every time you get a pimple, then it's a scar, then it's like
Mm-hmm.
um that stuff cleared up like that.
Wow.
Wow.
But they
Listen.
make you be on, you can't, it's very dangerous if you get pregnant and you'll have like dry lips and
Hmm.
you have to be monitored, but you're only on it for like, I was on it for 16 weeks.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
will tell anyone, if you have struggled with acne and you're tired, like give it a try. If that's, for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. When I mean, this is nothing as severe, but I remember taking, was it Lamisil? Was that the pill you'd have to take for like toenail issues?
Oh, I
I,
didn't know. Wow. I got to look
I,
that up. Wait.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
there's a cream, liquid now or something, right?
But there was, I don't know if it was, maybe Lamisil was external, but there was also a pill I had to take. Long story short,
Mhm.
my niece who's 21 now, and I always remind her this. She used to stay stepping on my feet now when she was a little girl, and she stepped on my toe so bad it just it was
Ooh.
exposed and it came out and it would get fungus and it never quite recovered. And I had to
Oh,
take this medication. I went to a podiatrist finally, and they had to do a whole panel of blood work for your liver, your kidneys, because if your
In
numbers
order
weren't
to
right,
take
in
it.
order to take the pill. But when I tell you in a matter of like 2 months,
it was done.
never,
It
that
grew
was years
back.
ago, and I took it. It grew back stronger, like none of that white. It was just, yeah. So every time I see her, I'm like, move on the side so you don't step on my But yeah, that's the beauty of modern medicine. It's like you be
Yeah.
walking around with acne and I might have a big green toe.
The pros and cons. There's gonna be
Right.
pros and
It's going to
cons.
be pros and
Yes.
cons. Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
can't take an extreme view like of
No,
things.
it doesn't sound like it now.
No.
Mhm.
No. I remember during COVID when all the churches were like there were like a good number of pastors who they didn't require their congregations to adhere to like
The
social
vaccine.
distancing.
Distancing.
Back, yeah, and then there was one pastor because we have sister churches, like affiliates throughout the country, my church. And one of those pastors, he was one of those, and he died of COVID. And I was like, if you had just listened. And he was like, oh, I'm going to trust God. I'm like, look, yeah, God wants us to trust him too, but he also gives us the tools and the resources. Like, that was just insane.
Just stay 6 feet away. Like, some of it is just people be defiant. Just like, it doesn't even have to be that extreme. Stay 6 feet away to lower your risk of.
That's it.
See, that's where I feel like there are people that may spiritually, I feel like, be called to abstain or do certain things or have certain faith walks. Like, so I don't know, like, they may literally have felt that, you know what I'm saying? So I guess you're free to be you if that works for you, but knowing that the option, like, for me, is there. And
when it affects other people, like, I don't care if people what they do with their own lives, but when they start giving misinformation that then has other people engaging in behaviors because they're influenced by that person, I think that's where I'm a little bit.
Or the same people that were anti-vaccine, they were like just rushing to the ER, and I'm just like, well, now
if the medicine don't work, then it don't work.
Right. So, like, my friend passed away in February of 21 from a liver malfunction. Her liver died. Because she was waiting for a bed because people weren't doing what they were supposed to do. So there were no beds at the hospital.
This was here? Oh my God.
Wow.
I was just like, because of COVID. And like, y'all, again, your personal, it's your choice. But now when you're encroaching upon, like, you're preventing people from getting the care that they need, or you're putting other people at risk for God knows what. Like, that's when I'm like, I don't know. Yeah.
That's that's my pet peeve, is like people being inconsiderate of the impact of what they do on others.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. So,
oh jeez.
Yeah.
Look, get out, exercise.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to end that on a low note. I'm sorry.
Oh, child, it's
eat right, exercise, be a good steward of what you put in your body, and if that also means getting medication to support that,
do it
for
sure.
Yeah.
Listen, 9 times out of 10, my girlfriend said, because she's on, I don't know if it's Ozempic or one of those GLP-1s, is it? She was like, I don't care. I'm gonna grow a third boob in about 10 years, but I'm gonna take it. I'm like, just take it. Do what you need to do. It's,
But and they're saying that those have so many positive health effects on decreasing inflammation in the body, which is a big source of even mental, health issues. Which I think this Beyond Brew, Dion, I'm telling you, it's not just about the bloating. It clear because the gut and the brain are
feel
connected.
better. Right.
Yeah. Don't you feel like you think clearer with that stuff?
When I have coffee, I had a coffee a couple days ago without it, and I was like, I don't feel right today. And it really, and again, it's a form of, I guess you could liken it to a medication or a supplement. So when you're taking it consistently, you definitely can tell the difference. Yeah.
Good child. Well, we can't solve the whole issue, but I think you guys summed it up. Just, you got to do what's right for you, but try to educate yourself and examine these mindsets where you're just rejecting something like, I'm not going to do that, because it could be the very thing that brings you relief in some form.
Yeah, you don't have to
I'm
suffer.
glad I don't have acne no more. Look. Thank you to Accutane.
And I don't have to do my own pedicures. Listen.
Oh gosh. And I'm definitely appreciative already of the medication that I'm on. So absolutely.
No, ditto.
So
all right, ladies.
All right.
We'll see you.
This is a good kickoff to season 1. Yes. And we will see you guys next time.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.